What's going on? It's Tom. Thanks for being here. Twins System Recap. We're going to talk about this weekend's games. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm going old school. I actually printed out my notes for this one. I have so much that I want to make sure I hit on. I know it's 2026. I still love having a printer. I'm that dude that will show up at the ballpark with physically printed barcodes for people to scan and all that stuff. But anyway, it's probably not a surprise for those of you who know I like to make zines. But enjoy having a printer still. News and notes before we get into it. Jason Reitz, the very tall young man that the Twins drafted, began a rehab assignment with the FCL Twins on Friday. He threw 2 shutout innings, so hopefully we'll be able to get some looks at him before too long. Cody Lawyerson started a rehab assignment with the Saints, so he may be rejoining the Twins bullpen before too much longer. Unfortunately, Bruin Agbayani was placed on the injured list, with the 7-day injured list, so hopefully he's not out too long. And then Taj Bradley had a rehab start with the Saints today. Went 1 2/3 innings, gave up 2 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. So can't imagine that they are wanting to be without Bradley for too long. But moving on to the 3 stars of Friday. Friday and Sunday were kind of more normal in terms of big performances, but Saturday was pretty bananas. Friday, Demiri Pena with a 3-hit game. This was his 3rd game with 3 or more hits already this season. Also stole a base. This was his 13th multi-hit game. He is hitting .316 with a .383 OBP as Demiri Pena after a pretty quiet 2025. Ben Ross, the Saints played a doubleheader here. So you see this was marking their game 1. He went 2 for 3 with 2 doubles, scored a run and drove in 3. Ben Ross is very much holding his own in AAA. He's not lighting it up to the degree that he did with Wichita, but I mean, that was impossible to keep up that pace. Through his first 19 games with the Saints, he has a .418 OBP and a .492 slugging percentage. And he's got 14 walks against 18 strikeouts in 19 games, so almost drawing as many walks as strikeouts. Again, he hasn't really missed much of a beat, really been a productive player. Playing a lot more outfield, as you see there in that game. He played center field, but he's a guy you can put wherever. Really good defensive player. But the first star of Friday was Mike Paredes in game 2 for the Saints. He's one of these guys who's on this weird... He's always been a reliever, but he's been a multi-inning reliever, and he's starting this year, but it's sort of almost kind of as a multi-inning reliever. It's this weird role that they're kind of testing with guys that are throwing every 4th day and on a schedule. Now, of course, when there's rainouts like there was, or maybe rehab assignments or things like that, that 4th day doesn't always happen. But that's kind of the design there. So it's an interesting approach. Mike Paredes has been pitching pretty well. I think he's kind of struggled to get accustomed to this job, but also topped out at 95.2 miles per hour. He's mostly a fastball, changeup, curveball guy. Was an 18th round pick back in 2021. But yeah, in AAA has been pitching well in his last 5 games. A 1.47 ERA, 0.87 whip, 15 strikeouts against just 3 walks in 18 1/3 innings. That's only, even this really good stretch, it's only a 21.4 K percentage, but that's a strikeout to walk ratio of 5, which is excellent. So I'm sure they would like to see him miss more bats, but again, guy in St. Paul, with the Twins bullpen looking like it is, I mean, he might get a look eventually. Here are the honorable mentions. I'm not going to read through all of these, and some of these guys we'll touch on in a minute here. But Kalen Culpepper in this game on Friday, game 1, was 1 for 4 with a homer and a steal. On Friday, between the 2 games, he had exit velocities of 107.7, 100.2, 99.6, and 109.1. So he was blistering the ball. He has a 985 OPS so far in May. So Kalen Culpepper keeping it going. Another guy, I mean, it's not as messy as the bullpen situation, but just Culpepper on his own without looking with anything at the big club. Like he's knocking down the door. He's doing everything he can. It's fun to see. Moving on to Saturday, again, a bunch of really impressive performances here. Quinn McDaniel was one of these indie ball guys they recently signed, went 4 for 5 with a homer, scored 3 runs, and drove in a run. in his first 6 games in the system. Again, very recently signed out of Indy Ball. He has 5 extra base hits. So, yeah, he's been playing real well. Second star is Gabriel Gonzalez, and he played first base. He's actually been playing, this was his 11th start at first base in this game. But Gonzalez 3 for 3 with a triple, a double, and 2 walks. So he reached base 5 times, did Gabriel Gonzalez. He's off to a slow start this year is how I would say. 676 OPS, but he's had some good games. He's shown power, he's shown contact. The approach still could be better, but he's very young. He's only 22 years old in AAA, so he's not much older than a lot of the guys that were taken in last year's draft out of college. So yeah, he's still real young, showing some flashes here and there. Then Dasan Hill, my goodness, 5 innings, 2 hits, no runs, no walks, 7 strikeouts for Dasan Hill. This was his 5th or 6th start with no walks. I didn't get that captured correctly, but I can say this is his first time throwing 5 innings and not walking a guy. That's the only thing that's going to get in Dasan Hill's way is his command, how many walks, how pitch efficient he is, and this kind of shows what he can do. And it's been a thing of beauty. His last 4 outings: a 2.16 ERA, a 1.08 WHIP, and 28 strikeouts in 16 2/3 innings. That is he has a 42.4 K percentage over his last 16 2/3 innings. So almost striking out half the guys he's faced, and that's not exactly a tiny sample size. So yeah, Dasan Hill is looking incredible. It can go back and forth with him so far early. Again, another guy who's ridiculously young. But yeah, sometimes you see him and it's like, what's all the fuss about this guy? And then it's like, oh, okay, I get it. And it's almost totally dependent on how many strikes he's able to throw. So a tremendous, tremendous outing in his last one, and just really good to see him turning things around. Hendry Mendez, here are the honorable mentions. Again, not going to call out all of these guys, but Hendry Mendez is one I really want to call out. He had his first AAA home run on Saturday. He's even better. He's hitting even better in AAA than he was in AA, and he was lighting it up for Wichita. In his first 10 games with the Saints, he has an OPS north of 1,000 and 1 more walk than he has strikeouts. And this is his first time in AAA. So Hendry Mendez, really, really impressive. He is on the 40-man roster. So, it's hard to find room, much more difficult on the hitter side, but, maybe the Twins will look to shake things up before too much longer. But, obviously he's only 10 games in at AAA, but really encouraged to see how he's played. Moving on to Sunday, the 3 stars. Third star, Jason Bass. I'm sure there's nothing that hasn't ever been done, but this is one of the weirdest games I think I can ever recall. Jason Bass enters the game as a pinch runner in the top of the 9th inning. So, number one, you just don't see that often in minor leagues, but you do it in close games in the 9th inning, you do. So that's just kind of unusual in its own. And Jason Bass isn't like a speed guy. He came in for J.P. Smith, who is a bigger first baseman, not real fleet of foot. So Jason Bass enters the game as a pinch runner, scores the game-tying run. It was 2-1 entering that inning. He tied it up, scored the game-tying run. So the game's tied 2-2 in the top of the 9th. The Mighty Muscles scored 7 more runs in that inning, and it got capped off by Bass's grand slam. How often do you see a guy enter a game in the 9th inning as a pinch runner and then also hit a grand slam in that inning? Again, I think everything's been done at this point, especially when you include the minor leagues, but that is insane. What a weird game for him. But yeah, pretty cool. Comes in, scores the game-tying run, hits a grand slam. Second star, the guy who started that game for the Muscles, Justin Mitrovich. This is a guy I shared some highlights on at Limestone Pipeline within the last week. Pretty intrigued by this guy. 2 perfect innings, struck out 5 of the 6 guys he faced. Just looked like he was on another level. And, it is tough in the Florida State League. I mentioned this in my Quentin Young video. The pitching is so much more advanced than the hitting. The hitting is so raw. The pitching is too, to a degree, but a lot of these guys are like Mitrovich, pitched in college. And then a lot of the guys who are hitters are high school guys or international signees, really young guys. So there is definitely a split there. But Mitrovich, 9th round pick in last year's draft, has not allowed an earned run in 9 innings pitched total and has struck out 14 batters in 9 innings. He's got a 6. Again, this is kind of where it almost seems like it's unfair for him against some of these kids. He's got a 6 pitch mix. Kind of sits 93 with his fastball. He'll kind of touch 94 and maybe 95. It's a mid-80s slider, though. That's a pretty good-looking pitch. And a nasty high 70s changeup, which, again, at that level, I don't think a lot of guys have faced a lot of good changeups. Really funky delivery. It's quick. His tempo on his delivery is really quick. And it's kind of like a crossfire, like a right-handed Madison Bumgarner with like the big wingspan thing going on. I think that works against his command, and I would say Mitrovich is effectively wild a lot of the time, but it also works for his deception. So I'm really curious to see how him and the Twins kind of evolve and work with that kind of advantage and disadvantage at the same time with how that is. But I really like watching him pitch. And then the first hard, Caleb Roberts, was another indie ball signing recently, was just havoc in this Wichita game. That was another game where the wind surge, much like, the Muscles entered down late, the wind surge were in the top of the 8th inning, trailing 3-2. Garrett Spain tied it up with a home run. He had a good game too. Then Roberts drew a walk and eventually scored from first on a double. And then in the 9th inning, Spain, again, hitting in front of Roberts, walked. Roberts walked as well. And then they attempted a double steal. The throw down to third sailed into left field. Roberts scored all the way from first base on that play. So taken out to steal second, the throw goes over. He not only advances to third, but scores on that play. So he was just a havoc. And again, hit a double, drew 3 walks, and stole 2 bases in that game. And yeah, he's another recent addition to the system who's been pretty fun to watch. The honorable mentions from Sunday see John Klein, who's kind of been picking up steam ever since he got recalled or sent back down to be optioned to St. Paul. He's been pitching a little bit better, but want to call out Yasser Mercedes. First high A home run since joining the Kernels, and in 5 games, he's only played 5 games with Cedar Rapids, but he has 3 doubles and a homer and 4 stolen bases. So 4 extra base hits and 4 stolen bases in his first 5 games in high A. And Yasser was really lighting it up in Fort Myers, so really exciting to see him not skip a beat, moving it up to Cedar Rapids. So let's take a look at the updated full star scoreboard. Here we have it. Kalen Culpepper still sits atop the list pretty comfortably. Eli Jones had a decent start this week, but it wasn't really worthy of calling out. I think he gave up a couple runs in 4 innings. Didn't really dominate or anything. It was a good but not good enough outing. Some other guys who've been, Dasan Hill cracks the top 10 once again after his amazing performance. You saw on the previous screen, Merrick Houston picked up an honorable mention. Then Yasser Mercedes we mentioned. Let's take a look at just May, though. This is so tight. So tight. So look at all these guys really tight. Dasan Hill, again, he's been picking it up this month. Yeah, Jaime Ferrer and Billy Amick. They had kind of quieter weekends, though. But those guys have been just crushing the ball. Yasser Mercedes in that mix. So many guys in striking distance of the top, also beyond these 10. So anyway, that does it for me. Thanks for checking this one out. Again, in case you missed it last time, this is kind of the new approach here. We're going to talk about the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday games, and then the Friday, Saturday, Sunday games in two videos a week. So they'll be a little bit longer, but maybe getting a little deeper, showing some different things. So let me know what you think. If there's anything you'd want to see added or even taken away or whatever. But thanks for checking this one out. Again, mention that I'm sharing highlights over on Limestone Pipeline. There is a free to everyone Quentin Young video up there now. Again, might take some looks at Mitrovich and some of these other guys. Hendry Mendez is a guy that I kind of want to take a deeper look at. There's a bunch of guys from today's video And I'm going to circle back to Yasser Mercedes once again, even though I've talked about him pretty extensively over on Limestone Pipeline and shared some of the pre-pitch setup changes that he's had. I think he changed his swing a bit too, but the pre-pitch setup stuff is dramatically different for Yasser Mercedes. So Dasan Hill, I just got to let you go so I can start pulling these highlights. So thanks for checking this one out. We'll talk again later.